For decades, India and Australia were basically just polite acquaintances. Mostly, they connected over cricket pitches and their shared Commonwealth history. But today, well, they've built a massive, game-changing geopolitical alliance. We are unpacking one of the absolutely most fascinating shifts of the 21st century right here. Welcome, focus learners, to this explainer on the India-Australia relationship. We're going to see exactly how this multifaceted, comprehensive strategic partnership is fundamentally reshaping the global stage.
Okay, let's dive right into the structure. We've got a clear roadmap today so we don't get lost in all the policy jargon. We'll trace their historical roots, examine their three strategic pillars, look at the booming trade, dive into defense, explore bilateral agreements, and finally wrap up with how they are jointly shaping the Indo-Pacific. All right, starting with Section 1, tracing the historical roots. Let's ground ourselves in the foundation here.
Geopolitical relationships like this, they absolutely don't happen overnight. They require a serious baseline of trust. And India and Australia are a surprisingly natural fit because they share some really vibrant, fundamental democratic traits. Both operate as pluralistic Westminster-style democracies with deep Commonwealth traditions. They maintain a free press, an independent judicial system, and, of course, they share the English language. This isn't just trivia, right? These shared values created the vital baseline for the massive, multifaceted interaction we're about to explore.
Now, what's really interesting here is the sheer acceleration of this whole thing. While Rajiv Gandhi visited way back in 1986, it was really the end of the Cold War and India's massive 1991 economic reforms that acted as the true catalyst. Suddenly, the doors swung wide open. Fast forward to 2014, and we see these historic reciprocal visits between Prime Minister Abbott and Prime Minister Modi. The momentum just kept building until 2020, when they officially upgraded to a comprehensive strategic partnership, which led directly into an unprecedented flurry of high-level prime ministerial engagements in 2023.
Moving on to Section 2, the three strategic pillars.
And this brilliantly illustrates our framework. To manage all this accelerated growth, Australia essentially established an India economic strategy to 2035, anchored by three core pillars. First up, economic ties, capitalizing on India's rapid growth and its huge appetite for resources and investment. Second, geostrategic engagement. Both nations realize they're natural allies, perfectly positioned to navigate the complex power dynamics of the vital Indo-Pacific region. And third, culture and soft diplomacy, leveraging a massive diaspora to build deep personal links in business, education, and civil society.
Which brings us to Section 3, booming trade and ties. Let's look at the actual human and economic impact. To put this into perspective, back in 2021, bilateral trade between the two nations hit $27.5 billion. That made India Australia's sixth largest two-way goods and services trading partner. But they are absolutely not stopping there. The ambitious goal is to practically double this, aiming for a staggering $50 billion within just 5 years. And why does this matter to us? Because this isn't just government money. This is businesses, tech, and goods moving faster than ever, creating ripple effects across the entire global economy. But hey, this alliance is fueled by way more than just cash. It's fueled by people. 700,000 people to be exact. That's the current size of the Indian diaspora in Australia, making it literally the fastest growing large diaspora in the country. If we look at their 2021 census, nearly 1 million people in Australia reported Indian ancestry. These folks act as vital bridges, forming the personal, political, and business links that strengthen the whole shebang from the ground up.
And get this, over 1 lakh, that's 100,000 Indian students are currently pursuing higher education in Australian universities. They are the second largest cohort of foreign students over there. Plus, this exchange is expanding rapidly. Thanks to a new mechanism for mutual recognition of educational qualifications, student mobility is easier than ever. Major Australian institutions like Deakin and Wollongong universities are even taking the unprecedented step of opening campuses directly in India. How cool is that? So, the crucial point here is the trade advantage. In December 2022, they enacted the Economic Cooperation Trade Agreement, or ECTA. The impact was immediate and massive. We're talking an immediate drop to zero duty on 96% of Indian exports to Australia by value. It also dropped duties to zero on 85% of Australia's exports to India. It is a textbook example of integrating two major economies, giving businesses in both nations a serious competitive edge.
All right, shifting gears to Section 4, defense and geopolitics.
Let's slow down for a second because this is absolutely crucial. Economic wealth requires security. Just listen to this quote from Australia's 2017 Foreign Policy White Paper. Beyond an increasingly important economic relationship, our security interests are congruent, particularly in relation to the stability and openness of the Indian Ocean. It's profound, right? Both countries share a deep fundamental interest in upholding international law, maritime security, and freedom of navigation across some incredibly vital trade routes.
And that high-level policy? It's translating directly into real-world operational coordination. They're holding 2+2 ministerial dialogues straight between their foreign and defense secretaries. Back in 2020, they signed the Mutual Logistics Support Agreement, which dramatically improves how their militaries work together. They're also out there conducting massive joint military operations, like the Malabar exercises and the Talisman Sabre exercises. And even beyond the military stuff, Australia actively supports India's membership in APEC and fully backs its candidacy for an expanded UN Security Council.
Now, to fully grasp this security cooperation, we do have to look at the China factor. Both nations face distinct geopolitical catalysts over the last decade. For Australia, diplomatic and trade strains emerged after it banned Huawei from its 5G network in 2018, called for a COVID-19 origins inquiry, and cited human rights concerns. For India, the catalyst involved facing an aggressive Chinese military posture along their shared border. What we're observing here is simply how two nations, responding to totally different events, arrived at shared strategic concerns regarding regional stability without explicitly taking political sides.
So what is the ultimate geopolitical answer to those strategic challenges? Well, it's the Quad. The Quadrilateral Security Dialogue is a plurilateral partnership uniting India, Australia, the United States, and Japan. It's built entirely on a powerful convergence of interests, basically a shared goal to promote a free, open, inclusive, and strictly rules-based international order in the Indo-Pacific region.
Moving along to Section 5, Energy, Nuclear, and Consular Agreements.
You know, beyond the grand, flashy geopolitics, there are these specialized bilateral agreements that quietly keep both countries running safely and efficiently. From a legal standpoint, they've got mutual legal assistance and extradition treaties. On the social side, a social security agreement protects their moving workforces. But the energy sector? That is where it gets really fascinating. Through a civil nuclear cooperation agreement, Australian mining companies can actually supply uranium to India strictly for civil use. Plus, their 2022 letter of intent on clean energy is all about pioneering ultra-low-cost solar and clean hydrogen to sustainably power the future.
And finally, Section 6, Shaping the Indo-Pacific Future. Let's see where this is all heading.
Let's move to our final points and see how this builds. The roadmap forward is, honestly, highly ambitious. First, they plan to leverage and widen the influence of that Quad partnership we talked about. Second, they're stepping up to take joint leadership roles in maritime security across the Pacific and Indian Ocean. Third, there's just massive potential for joint defense manufacturing, specifically leveraging India's Atmanirbhar Bharat, or self-reliance initiative. And finally, they are locking arms on critical emerging tech, seeking win-win cooperation in AI, semiconductors, drones, 6G, and even blockchain.
Which leaves us with one incredibly provocative question. We are watching two democratic powerhouses align their economies, their militaries, and their technological ambitions right before our eyes. So, how will the combined leadership of India and Australia redefine the technological and maritime boundaries of the Indo-Pacific? It's a question that is, for sure, going to shape the next century of global politics. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and we will catch you next time.